Now then, ever since I bought this truck, I've had plans to upgrade the interior. You see, it's a little bit like a Love Island contestant. It's very pretty on the outside, but a bit boring on the inside, and that kind of lets the overall thing down. Some bits need repairing, others need a lick of paint, and whilst I'm on with that, I thought I could add a few new parts as well. Bit rude not to, wouldn't it? Anyway, I won't make you wait any longer. Go grab yourself a cuppa, get sat down, and let's get into it. So yeah, if you've watched any of my videos before, you'll know this is my 1992 Honda Acty SDX, a four-wheel drive K-truck that spent the first 30 years of its life in Japan and the last 2 on my driveway. Now I love the way this thing looks on the outside, but I haven't really had the time to focus on the interior. It's not bad, but it doesn't really go with the mad vibes you get when you look at it from the outside. But now show season has finished, and because I don't have anything better to do other than redecorate an entire house, I thought why not get some of these jobs ticked off before show season kicks off again later this year. What have I got planned then? Well, the inside of the cab is still its original colour, white, and although it's not blazingly obvious since the insides of the doors and the door shuts are painted satin black, I thought it'd look much nicer if I could get the full thing sprayed satin black, and that'd cover over a few of the little battle scars as well. The door cards were butchered by the previous owner, so I'd like to replace those. The headlining has a small tear which looks like it could be repaired somehow. I'm missing a few plastic trims in the door shut, so I'll have to find a pair of those. I bet they cost a small fortune. The tint on the rear window has seen better days, and I might even swap it out for something a bit darker. The wiring under the dash is an absolute bird's nest, so I've got all that to sort out. And finally, the seats. They're not damaged at all, which is quite rare to be honest, but they are hanging. They're super dirty and need a good clean, but I have been toying with the idea of swapping them out for something a bit more buckety. I've just made that word up, but you know exactly what I mean, don't you? And because the seats will have to come out so I can paint all my white bits, I thought that's where I'd make a start. Now I've had a look at bucket seats before, and there are 4 big issues with fitting a pair of them in one of these trucks. One is, can you actually fit behind the wheel? There's always the option of fitting a flat base bucket seat or even a quick release boss kit so you can pop the steering wheel off to make getting in and out a little bit easier. But it's not just getting in and out that might be the issue. The original seats are mounted to the bulkhead, so you don't have any more space to move it back, meaning I'll need to find something that doesn't push me any closer to the steering wheel once I'm actually sat in there. The third problem would be width. Can I fit 2 bucket seats side by side in this and still be able to close both doors? And finally, the passenger seat base folds up over so you can access the washer fluid reservoir. So ideally, I need to be able to have the base lift up on that side so I can still access it. Anyway, I was scrolling through Facebook one night and these popped up. Yeah, I know, they're not a bucket seat. Technically, they're a gaming chair. Well, they're not even a full chair, it's just the backs of them. But they were free, and I'm from Yorkshire, so of course I was going to see if I could get them to fit. They're both brand new. Basically, neither one of them has a small fault, and the fella I got them from was told by Secret Lad to just bin them after sending him a replacement. But he couldn't bear throwing them away, so he tossed them on Marketplace for nothing, and well, now they're going in the truck, hopefully. The first thing I did was a width test. Are these 2 seats going to be able to fit side by side next to each other? And once I close the door, I can happily say that they passed. Just. Now I knew I was going to have to take the existing seats out to properly gauge whether or not these would fit, but I wanted to see if I could squeeze behind the wheel with them doubled up because, well, I was a bit keen. Yeah, I could, but I definitely need all the clearance I can get. So once they were out the way, I started whipping out the old headrests and seats to free up that all-important space. That's when I made a discovery that might make this process of swapping the gaming chair backrests in a whole lot easier. The original backrests are completely separate to the base, which is a massive win, because it means I can reuse the original seat bases rather than having to make my own, and I'll only have to modify the gaming chair frames so they fit the same mounting points as the original seats. I'll show you what I mean in a second, but first I wanted to test out what the fitment was like now the seats were removed. Still a little bit snug to get in and out, but there's plenty of padding on these seats that I can probably get rid of. And remember, I can always put a quick release boss kit on the wheel to pop it off if need be, which might turn up by the end of the video if trying to pull a finger out. Right. Now I've figured out that these seats should fit, albeit with a little bit of manipulation, it's time to strip them down and see what the frames look like. They'll be getting reupholstered anyway, so it's not a big deal if I tear them. And do you remember me saying that there was a fault on each of these before? Well, I might be able to fix those once they're apart too. There was about 15 of these little rings to unhook from the back of the inside of the chair, which held the fabric to the frame. And once the cover was off, you can see how much foam they actually use in these gaming chairs. as well as how the back support works, which is handy to know because that's what's broken on the next one that I've got to strip down. With no padding at all, then it was time for another test fit, and apart from it being a little bit tight to actually get in because of the wing at the top of the seat, I think I was in the same position as I was with the original backrest, which is exactly what I was after. I could fully extend my arms out to hold the steering wheel, which is perfect. I'll just have to shave off as much foam as I can before they get reupholstered. The good thing is though, they're just as comfy with no padding at all than the original seats, so whatever I add back onto the frame is going to be a bonus. All I had to do now was repeat the process on the seat that I'm using for the passenger side. Now this is the one with the broken lumbar support, so once I've stripped it down I should be able to figure out what's wrong with it. The driver's seat had a couple of strip threads where an armrest would bolt into, but I'm not too bothered about that because 1, I don't need an armrest, and 2, the bracket just unbolts like this one here, and then it's going to be covered over by the new fabric. After removing the foam on this seat, which I'll be able to leave as is because you don't have to worry about a steering wheel in front of you, I found the issue with the back support. The little ferrule on the end of the steel wire head came out of the base of the plastic mould. So basically all I had to do was spin the knob so the cable was at its max length, pop it back in where it should be seated, and voila, I've got working lumbar support again. Mint. Yeah, the plastic is cracked in the centre, I'm guessing it's taken a heavy knock in transit, but as a secondary seat in the truck that's probably not going to get a great deal of use. I'm sure it's going to be fine. Plus I can't figure out where to actually buy these from, so I guess it'll have to be. Now the frames are exposed, you can see what my plan is. On the driver's backrest there is a bracket either side that bolts onto the base of the chair. On the passenger side, there's 2 small lugs at the top that slide into these retaining points and a small lug that you stick a bolt through into this threaded mounting point at the bottom. Now for the new driver's seat, all I'll need to do is remake these brackets for the gaming chair. With the passenger seat though, I'll have to weld some lugs on up top, but the modifications for the base are slightly less technical because at the moment the seat base is too wide to fit in between the existing seat base brackets. But I'm not going to put you through the torture of watching me fabricate something, so I'll get back to you once they're welded up. Wish me luck, eh? So, here's the finished product. Well, I hope it is anyway, I haven't actually test fitted them yet. But I've done what I've set out to do. Remade the brackets on the driver's side and chopped the hell out of the passenger seat, as well as adding some sketchy lugs to the back of it to mount it to the bulkhead. Those are the bits that I'm most worried about, to be honest, but they are the easiest bits to whip off and change if they don't fit. So, let's find out, eh? Starting with the driver's seat. Now, it was properly tight to get out, but to be honest, it looks like it fits perfectly. The bracket is nice and snug to the base of the seat and the holes line up. Can't really ask for more than that, can you? I just wanted to check that the seating position hadn't changed, but after jumping behind the wheel I can confirm we are A-OK. Super. Onto the passenger seat then. Now, like I said, I've chopped the life out of this thing, but I welded another bar back on just to give it its strength back, as well as the lugs on the back, and if they're not in the right place, then the seat isn't going to fit. And guess what? It didn't. I wasn't far off, to be fair. I didn't take any measurements, I was just cutting stuff and hoping for the best. But the frame was just resting on these plastic covers for the seat base. The 2 lugs at the top looked like they were in the right position, they just needed a little bit of bending to make them fit, and once I'd slotted those into the 2 mounting brackets up top, I then marked up where exactly I needed to relocate the bottom one so I could bolt it into position. Fast forward 24 hours and I've took another inch or so off each corner of the base and remade the bottom lug. Bosh! The seats now fit and they are solid. There's only one thing left to do. Let's take everything back out so I can get them down to the reupholsterers and get them properly tarted up. It's taken me absolutely ages to make my mind up about what fabrics to go for, so hopefully they look as good when they're finished as they do in the head. Whilst I'm waiting for those to come back, my quick release boss arrived. It's just a cheap universal one, but to be totally honest, the quality is miles better than what I expected. Now I know I'm probably going to have to buy a shorter hub as well, but I'm going to whack it on anyway and see if it looks about right, which it did. If you want a full video on this quick release hub, then let me know down in the comments and I'll get one made for you. Right, so I started this in December. It's now May. Yeah, I've had to wait for materials to come back in stock, and then the seats have been at the upholsterers for the last month. But I've collected them, I've fitted them, and might as well show you. So you can see I've gone for the closest colour I could find to match the existing interior colours, and like most bucket seats, the centrepiece is now separate, and this is actually an old Porsche fabric called Pepita Houndstooth. Well, I say old, there are still some legends out there speccing their new GT3 RSs with the same gear. Mint man. The original Houndstooth fabric I wanted, which had a bit of brown in the design, was £250 a metre. Without the brown in the fabric, just black and white, it was £30 a metre, so that kind of made my mind up. I was going to paint the inside of the cab black whilst I was waiting for them to come back from the upholstery, but getting the Mini ready for the ring has taken up most of my free time, so it'll have to wait for now. I did manage to give it a good deep clean though, because there was 30 years of Japanese dust under all the plastics, and I've removed that rear tint as well because it was all damaged. Not sure whether to put it back or not, I quite like it how it is at the moment. However, just talking about the seat, I'll run you through everything that I've had to do. So I've reused the original seat bases, but they've had some extra foam fitted either side to build up a bit of a bolster, because if you can remember, the original ones were completely flat. These are much comfier to sit on. The driver's seat didn't really require that much work. I had to fabricate 2 brackets and weld those onto the frame, and the only other thing that was needed was to shave off as much foam as possible on the backrest. Probably could have done with a little bit more taken off, if I'm being totally honest. That's if the upholsterer's taken any off at all. But yeah, it is absolutely beautiful. The passenger seat took a lot more fettling to make it fit than what I originally thought, but I got there in the end. And although the passenger seat base doesn't lift fully up now because of the wings on the seat, I can still get under there to access the washer fluid, and I've still got my little pouch under there too, which is more handy than you think when you haven't got a lot of storage space. But overall, I am mega chuffed with it. You wouldn't be able to run much deeper wings on any other bucket seat because you'd struggle to get in and out, so overall, I think they're perfect. How much has it all cost me? Well, the backrests were free. I did all of the fabrication work myself, with some scrap offcuts, so again, that didn't cost me anything. But one thing I did have to pay for was to have them reupholstered. So for the fabric and all the labour to have them professionally done, it cost me this much. It was a good little learning experience, if anything. I hadn't really done a great deal of fabrication or welding before this, but I've started to pick it up a bit more now over the past few months. I did kick myself a little bit when I saw a set of brown leather S2000 seats for sale, which could have potentially saved me a lot of time, effort and money. But I think it's pretty cool that I've made these myself, to be honest. Anyway, if you enjoyed the video, I'd really appreciate it if you could drop it a like. It's literally been 6 months in the making, this one. Probably taken a little bit longer than it should have, but it was totally out of my hands. Let me know whether you like the seats or not by leaving a comment down below, and you can always subscribe to the channel for more K-Truck content. There's plenty of stuff on there already if you just want to have a browse. I do have some little bits of merchandise on the way, you know, daft air fresheners and stickers, so keep your eyes peeled across my socials for when they arrive if you want to get one. And yeah, that's it for now. Thanks so much for watching. I've been Lookship, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.
I go back to back.